It was the kind of Zoom call that could make or break a startup. The air thick with forced smiles and the hum of high-stakes desperation. Emily Carter sat there, her cursor hovering over slide 11. The one she'd poured her soul into, diagrams of encrypted data flows, risk models that could shield the company from lawsuits. All her handiwork. Then Brandon Hayes, the new VP of product with his polished grin and zero socks loafers, cut in like a knife through butter. Emily. Stop. You're fired. Leave now. He said it live. In front of every investor. His voice flat as a boardroom table. No warning. No HR script. Just raw dismissal echoing through the speakers. Emily didn't gasp or argue. She just closed her laptop with a soft click, stood up in her quiet Brooklyn apartment, far from the San Francisco chaos, and stared out the window at the indifferent city skyline. A pigeon landed on the fire escape. Oblivious. She smiled faintly. The kind of smile that hides a storm. And texted her lawyer one line, activate clause 7.3c. Because this wasn't the end. It was the ignition. 6 months earlier, Emily hadn't wanted back in. She'd been out. Burned by the co-founder fallout that left her scraping by as a freelance coder, pushing 40 and wondering if tech's glass ceiling had finally cracked her skull. But the CEO, Alex Thompson, called her during her microwave dinner, his voice cracking like thin ice. Emily, we need you. The platform's collapsing, data breaches, user drop-off, VCs breathing down our necks. He read aloud from the old contract. Clause 4.2b, founding systems architect may be reinstated as key consultant during operational crises. It was a backdoor she'd insisted on years ago. After the first betrayal when they pushed her out post-launch. She made him repeat it, savoring the humility in his tone. Then agreed. Not for loyalty, but for leverage. She fixed their mess quietly, no parades. No Slack shoutouts, just solid code. Compliance layers that passed SEC scrutiny. Automated audits that turned red flags into green lights. The startup, a fintech app promising seamless crypto trades, was a house of cards held by expired AWS credits and caffeine-fueled hacks. Emily rebuilt it into a fortress. But gratitude in Silicon Valley is as fleeting as a viral tweet. Once the app stabilized, they started freezing her out. Invites to stand-ups vanished. Alex forgot to loop her on funding prep. Her name scrubbed from the due diligence docs she'd authored. Copy-pasted verbatim. When she flagged it in a one-on-one, Alex shrugged like it was spilled coffee. Miscommunication. We'll sort it. Nothing sorted. Then Brandon arrived. Fresh from some failed edtech venture. All TED Talk charisma and empty buzz. He shook her hand like it was contaminated. Said, heard about your tweaks. Keep it high-level moving forward. High-level meant sidelining her tech deep dive for shiny narratives about disrupting finance and user empowerment. Emily bit her tongue. Nodded. But inside, the hurt festered, a quiet rage born from years of being the invisible fixer in a boys' club. She learned early, silence isn't weakness, it's a weapon. As a woman in tech, especially one who'd clawed up from community college hacks to co-founding gigs, she'd been burned before ideas stolen. Credit erased. Doors slammed. This time, she embedded herself deeper. While they played politics, she rewrote the infrastructure with subtle hooks, access controls tied to her credentials, licensing keys that expired without her sign-off, compliance frameworks laced with her digital signature. They didn't notice. They were too busy pitching fairy tales to investors. Buried in the Series B term sheet. Page 14. Subsection 6.1. Footnote C. Product demo and compliance must include input from designated architect Emily Carter for funding validity. She'd negotiated it in. Dry legalese no one skimmed past the charts. The tension built like a slow leak in a pressure cooker. Brandon gutted her pitch section overnight, 15 minutes of vital tech walkthrough slashed to 5 slides. One a generic stock image of a soaring eagle. Emily didn't email or confront. She restored her version via a hidden backup she'd wired into the shared drive. It defaulted to her copy unless overridden, a failsafe she'd built for emergencies. They never asked how the system worked, they assumed it just did. Meanwhile, Brandon bragged on LinkedIn about visionary execution, dumping buzzwords like confetti. Emily watched. Her silence a gathering cloud. The investor call hit like a scripted disaster. Alex opened with his jittery hype, hyperscaling. Market velocity. Paradigm shift. Lead investor Victoria Lang sipped from a mug etched with "Show me the data," her expression stone. Brandon narrated the fluff, dodging tech questions with redirects to our advisor. Then it was Emily's turn. Her original deck loaded, schemas animating, risks mapping in real time. Investors perked up, even Victoria leaned in. 2 minutes in, explaining traceable IP layers, Brandon snapped. Emily, stop. You're fired. The words hung. A digital guillotine. Emily logged off without a word. The betrayal slicing deep, not just the job, but the erasure of her worth. The public humiliation echoing her past scars. Back in the virtual room, silence exploded into chaos. An investor typed, "What the hell?" Alex froze, his face a mask of panic. The CTO rifled through papers. Victoria spoke first. Her voice arctic. Why was MS? Carter removed mid-demo. Alex stammered. Internal realignment. Streamlining. Stop, Victoria cut. Flipping to clause 2.4. Funding hinges on her active role in core systems through close. More silence. The kind that screams. Covered, she echoed Brandon's earlier bluff. Who owns the licensing keys she built? The audit frameworks in your packet. Crickets. They realized too late. Emily wasn't a cog, she was the engine. Her code was the spine holding their fintech dreams upright. The fallout spread like wildfire. Victoria muted and exited. A quiet kill. By 10 a.m., her legal team emailed, confirm Emily Carter's status by 5 p.m. Or funding suspended. Panic ignited. Alex called an emergency huddle. Brandon sauntered in, still smirking. The CTO looked ghostly. Her fingerprints are everywhere. Commits. Modules. Vendor ties. Legal stammered over unread contracts. They tried reactivating her access. Password resets. Role restores. Nothing. Emily had deactivated from inside that morning. Using the auth ladder she'd designed, self-expiring keys. Escrowed vaults. They needed her. She needed zilch. Slack buzzed with whispers. Engineers unearthed her stamps on critical code, liability proxy layer, EC initials. Licensing tree tethered to her creds. One replied to Brandon's damage control memo, respectfully. False. Deployments linked to her sandbox. We can't access compliance licenses. The CTO DM'd Brandon. Fix this. Now. But there was no fix without groveling. Emily ignored the barrage emails. Texts. Slack pings. The hurt fueled her resolve. They'd treated her like disposable code. Now they'd choke on the bugs. The board call that night was a funeral dirge. Cameras off. Voices strained. Alex, developments. Ops director, you nuked our funding and axed a clause-mandated player. Counsel, she's structural, tied to deliverables. Vendors. Breached 2 agreements already. 3 more lapse soon. Silence turned to dread. Fallback rights, someone whispered. Counsel, she retains IP licensing if breached during funding. She owns enough to halt deploys. They'd signed it. Blind to the trap. Emily had built her kill switch, activated by their betrayal. Outreach flooded her inboxes. She let them stew. Victoria's team dug into Brandon, unearthed his past churn fudging at a prior startup. Unethical but damning. Why wasn't this vetted? The board demanded. Alex had no excuse. Bro ties over due diligence. Emily's contract resurfaced. Critical consultant. Retains rights on breach. They weren't leading. They were limping. Victoria called Emily at dawn. I know what you did. Emily, then you get why I walked. No apologies. Victoria offered solution. Emily demanded no titles. Full IP rights via her LLC. Double back pay. Brandon and Alex out. Final sign-off on her systems. Done, Victoria said. Chase resigned. Board voted Alex gone. It wasn't revenge. Emily clarified, control. The call ended clean. Contracts landed in her inbox. NVS Tech LLC as licensor. Her authority etched in. Press release. Leadership restructure. Bland. But the subtext roared. Old guard fled. Engineers revered her archive threads. Brandon nuked his LinkedIn. Alex vanished to a Colorado retreat. Journaling failures. Emily didn't return in person. Her entity sublicensed everything. Green lights required her nod. They couldn't whisper her name. Just external partner. The post-chaos investor call was tense. Smiles brittle. Victoria. Technical overview by licensed architect. Emily unmuted. Proceed from slide 11. She delivered facts. Unemotional. Authoritative. Silence followed, not awkward. Reverent. Series be closed. Oversubscribed. It's evening now. The kind where New York quiets to a murmur. Emily's at a corner diner. Laptop humming beside cold coffee. Inbox. Final report. Her claws intact. A text from an unsaved number, likely Alex. You win. You're in charge. She doesn't reply. Sips her brew. Closes the lid. They'd silenced her. Now she held the mic. The price? Isolation. But freedom. Control isn't pretty. But it's hers.